to the channel. I'm Kevin, this is Motorcycle Repair. This is Ashlar filming. You can't see him, but he is there, I promise. Right, so we've got this FMR 50 Lexmoto. It's come into the shop today from a customer. It's got no, well, it's actually got no spark, but they've tried repairing it themselves because it wouldn't start. We will walk you through the process on this bike that we went through to eliminate certain parts of the electrical circuit to find out actually what the problem was. So the first thing we're going to do, or the first thing we've actually noticed with this bike, the battery was completely dead. Obviously they've been turning the bike over and over and over until the battery was absolutely dead. There was no lights on the dashboard, no brake lights, nothing. So we disconnected the battery and we have Jerry Riggs there, jump pack. Now this is quite important. It's best to disconnect the battery when you put the jump pack on, because the battery could be that dead it could draw the current from the good battery to the bad battery, which then obviously you're not going to get full voltage to your starter motor and electronics. So that's all done. We've got the bike turning over, so we know the starting circuit's fine. That's all good, not a problem there. So our next step, it wouldn't start, just worth adding that bit. The next step is to see if it's got a spark. You know, you could be turning it over for hours on end, drain the battery, put extra load on the starter motor. You know, the first thing to do is check for a spark. So what we did, I won't show you how to remove all the seat, because if you're looking at it yourself, I'd like to think, you know, you're more than capable of knowing how the seat comes out. So I won't show you that bit. Maybe if there's a lot of call for it, we might do it in in the next video or something. But anyway, moving on. So if you look down here, that's where your spark plug is located. See that down there? Let's get a screwdriver. Yeah. Your spark plug is located just there. So if you remove the spark plug cap, which we have got a HT lead, it's all in bits obviously because we've actually diagnosed the problem now, but I'm just walking it through on our diagnosis step by step. So you want to remove the spark plug cap. I always like to remove the suppressor cap as well, or spark plug cap, and go straight to the engine or frame to see whether you've got a spark. I won't turn this over because nothing's connected down there, but turn the engine over and see if you've got a spark. If you haven't got a spark, then you know that's your problem. Right, so from that, from there, the first thing you should do is check the coil. Obviously that's the last part of the circuit, is the coil, so it's best to work from the coil backwards. Obviously we've got loads of parts lying around the shop, coils and everything, so we're quite lucky we can pick up a working coil that we know that works to rule out that this one is good or doesn't work, or if that is the problem. But the coil wasn't the problem on this case. So from there, where do you go from there? Right, so the next thing you want to be checking is the connections, like connections to your CDI unit, which I will pull that one out. We have got another one somewhere, but connections to your ignition, connections to your kill switch, and a big one on these, which I've had loads of problems with these over the years with Lexmotos, is the kill switch from the side stand, or side stand switch, not kill switch. It is a kill switch effectively, but it's a side stand switch. That's always worth checking. Now to do that, like, it can be quite fiddly, but the best thing to do is just bypass it. On a few different Lexmotos it works in different ways. Some supply power down to it, some supply an earth. On this one it's all earth, so you could just short out all the wires, which then will make the electric start work. Will also make the ignition circuit work. If that doesn't work, then you know a side stand switch is not the problem. We will be showing you how to test a coil on another video. I could show you now, but I think that would be a really good dedicated video on how to test a motorcycle coil, or any coil, as they all work on the same principle. Now it's worth noting as well, with a voltmeter, if you do own one, you can check the resistance in the kill switch and the ignition switch by doing a resistance check or a continuity check. that is a really good way to see if that is working. Again, we will go through all that in different videos, but we want to sort of keep it specialised in certain things. So we can do a special video where we can say, right, to test the coil, we'll show you how to do the secondary winding and the primary one circuit on a coil. Now, I think that would be really helpful. So from there, the next thing to check, obviously, is the stator, because again, there's two different types of CDI units on Lexmoto. So you get a DC supplied CDI unit, so it means it's supplying 12 volts DC, and you get an AC type CDI unit which supplies AC to the CDI unit, which AC current will come straight from the stator or alternator. You probably might recognise it better as. So our next step was to check everything down here. So if you would like to walk around here, Ash, I can show you. It's not connected now, we've obviously disconnected it all. But obviously the first thing to check, again, we're starting from sort of like around the CDI area, working backwards. So what you really need to check is the continuity or resistance between these wires and your CDI wires. If you've got good continuity there, you know your connections are fine, it's not a connection issue. But it is worth noting, I will point this out, go into a little bit more depth. So you've got this yellow wire and a white wire with like a triangle type connection block. Now that is a two-phase charging circuit. So that is what charges your battery. So that's got nothing to do as such with your spark. So you can rule them two out, you don't need to test them. The two you'll be interested in is these two. Which that one there, the blue and white one, is for the pickup coil. So that's a crankshaft position sensor that actually times when the spark is going to ignite into relation to the piston and the crank position. This red and black one is the charging wire. So it's got a separate coil that charges the CDI unit, if you like. Now, we tested this with a voltmeter in AC, and we didn't have any voltage, Ash, was it? Or,
nothing.
No, none, was it?
Nothing at all.
And the stator as well, we tested that, just, you know, see what the stator was kicking out, and one was like 2 volts and one was 4 volts. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, actually, because all along, when this bike came in, I'd noticed the fan was missing. So basically, that's the fan cover. So that's what it looks like normally when that's on there. Normally you have a fan, which I'll just grab that actually. Right, so this is the fan. So basically, as I was saying, that cover normally goes on there. Now the flywheel, which I do want to point this out as well, there's a little, so you've got the crank position sensor, which is there, that's your CPS. That sits there. It sits on the outside of the flywheel, similar to a car actually, so they're done. And obviously there's that little raised bit on the flywheel just there, and there's no others there, that's timing marks. And every time that goes past that pickup coil, it causes a little magnetic field, which is a small current of about 1.5 volts, if that, and that triggers the spark. And you know, at first I thought, yeah, it could be the crank position sensor, but as I said earlier, we could see that this has been played with. Anyway, I checked the CPS, that was fine, and I thought to myself, do you know what, I bet the bolts they've stuck this fan on with has been too long, and it's gone right way through the flywheel, and obviously when they've been turning the engine over, it's been rubbing on this stator. I have seen that quite a few times, and yeah, when I took it off, if you look on here, if you see that bolt there, that thread, you can see it's all a bit battered. Sure enough, shine the torch through. If you look down at the stator, you can see it's absolutely torn apart. Now these two here, these are the ones that charges the CDI unit, so that's the charging coil for the CDI, and that is why it's not working, because it's just destroyed. I will go into a little bit more depth actually, because it's quite interesting stators, but again, we will do another video that will go really into depth with them. But basically a stator picks up a magnetic charge off your flywheel, and that's what charges your battery and obviously sends power to the CDI unit. Now, what it is basically is a copper wire, and it's just wound around the stator so many times. and it's pretty good actually the way it works, because the wire has to be a certain length and there's so much physics in it. It's actually really interesting, but we'll cover that in another episode. Right, so obviously we diagnosed that, we've shown you all about the stator and everything. Now it is worth pointing out this part. So flywheels. Now if you're doing this in your garage, you're probably not going to have a flywheel puller, which looks like this. So that's your flywheel puller. There's all different types, different bikes. This one fits the FMR quite well. It's the opposite thread, so it's anti-clockwise. That's always important to know. I'm not going to go into great detail how to use it, but you will need one of these if you are going to pull this flywheel off. Now the worst thing you can do is go hitting it with a hammer. That is just bad news. Obviously you put an extra load on the crank, and the main thing is you will damage these threads. Once you damage them threads, you're going to find it hard, because obviously it's the crank. It's going to be a new crank or a refred job. Just don't do it. It's not how you do it. If you're going to do that, take it to a shop, someone like us who knows what they're doing, and have it done properly. Although you don't necessarily have to take this flywheel off to check to see if you've got the same problem. All you have to do, what I'm going to show you now, is just this back onto the crank. It's worth noting at this stage actually, there is actually a keyway here. Don't know whether you can see that on camera, you should be able to. Obviously make sure that keyway lines up to the actual keyway in the groove in the flywheel. So that goes on there like that. See how that fits on. Now, if you get a torch and shine it through these holes here, you will see the stator in the background. And if you spin this flywheel all the way around, you'll be able to see if there's any damage on these. And this is how I diagnosed it. Obviously I've got a flywheel puller, I could do it in a few minutes, but I thought I'd just have a look. But yeah, you will be able to see through those little sight holes there whether you have the same problem as this bike. Right, so we have fitted the new stator, put the flywheel back on, put all the covers back on. Now it's time to see if we've got a spark. Fingers crossed. Yeah, right, so the next stage, what we're going to do now is put the suppressor cap back on the spark plug and see if it'll run. Never heard this bike run, so I know it's going to be loud, because one, it's got no airbox, that's the way it came in, and two, the exhaust is blowing and it's just really poorly fitted. But anyway, let's see if it starts. Bit of encouragement. That's it, she's all running again. So it just goes to show, you can actually introduce problems into a job like this if you're not quite sure what you're doing. Obviously even now I don't know why they've gone into the stator and sort of messed about with that. Obviously someone's caused that problem didn't happen by itself. There must have been something that was going on, maybe a bad plug or a bad connection somewhere that we maybe fixed or they fixed, but along the way they've put two long screws through, or bolts through the actual fan that go into the flywheel and damaged the stator. So on all of that, I'm Kevin, this is Motorcycle Repair, this is our Ashlar filming crew. Make sure you like, you subscribe and share. Actually I'll just show you our next video. So the next one's going to be this RSV 1000. The problem with this one is the starter clutch, very common problem on these bikes, and I really want to go into some depth on the problem and what causes it, the weaknesses, and everything that involves in that job. That is going to be a good job. Looking forward to that. Are you looking forward to it, Ash?
Not really.
No? I don't blame you, but I am. So on that, we'll leave you there. Like, subscribe, share. Yeah, just keep an eye on the old YouTube episodes. Thanks for now.